Welcome to the Be Kind podcast with your host, Joe Kirkner, presented by the Animal Advocates of South Central Pennsylvania.
Okay, I think we're ready to do this, so take it away.
Let's do it.
Welcome, everybody, to Be Kind Podcast, part of the Animal Advocates mission to create a more compassionate world for all living creatures, whether they are in the sun or underneath a foot of snow or 2 feet of snow, if you're listening to this week. We love them all, and they all deserve to be loved, and we're here to make that a reality. Today, we are joined by Leon, who is a former board member of the Animal Advocates of South Central PA, but he is currently living in Baltimore and working for Johns Hopkins. And I'm also joined by John, as usual. Hey. So, Leon, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure, and if you like just get started by telling us a little bit about yourself and doing the stereotypical "what's your vegan journey" question.
Definitely. So, my name is Leon, as you said. I am 25, living in Baltimore right now. I work at Johns Hopkins Hospital as a medical technologist. I started my vegan journey when I was 19 in college. As a vegetarian, as I was doing a lot of weightlifting at the time, and I thought that being vegetarian would help me perform better. Oddly enough, it's like the opposite of what most people think. And I was also getting very bored of the brown rice, chicken, broccoli meals that all bodybuilders and fitness people eat every day. So I tried out being vegetarian, and then through YouTube and watching a lot of vegan fitness influencers, I learned about veganism. Because as I was growing up, I never even knew that was an option. I grew up in a household of immigrants from Trinidad and Tobago, where we eat every animal and every part of every animal. So not eating animals never even crossed my mind until college. And I'm happy it did. I'm happy I went the vegan route, and I've been vegan for almost... Wait a second. Yeah, my 5-year vegan anniversary was just last week, December 11th.
Wow.
So, congratulations.
Yeah, happy vegan anniversary.
Or 6th year. Nice. 5 or 6 year. It's hard to keep track.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after I went vegan, I met Adrienne, of course, who you all know very well. Mm-hmm. And I started helping her form the Animal Advocates, South Central PA.
Nice.
I already have a couple follow-up questions, so I need to ask, how has the transition to veganism been received in your family and your cultural circles? You said you're from an immigrant family. Have you received any pushback, or have they been accepting of it, or anything in between?
Definitely. My mom at first was really upset, not because I was vegetarian, but because she thought she couldn't cook for me anymore. But after some convincing, she realized that she could make all of her meals just in a different way. Mm-hmm. And she was really happy about that. The rest of my family doesn't really mind as much. My sister is super supportive. She lives in Philly, which has a great vegan scene. So she always sends me Instagram posts of vegan food she's eating, or vegan restaurants close to her that just opened. Still, even during the pandemic, she sends me stuff all the time. And then my brothers are also pretty supportive. One of them actually went vegan for a while, but he has since gone back and switches between vegan or pescatarian or flexitarian, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. But he's more interested in just his own personal health. But yeah, overall, I feel at first there was some pushback, but now everyone's pretty much on board. I mean, I've been vegan for so long now, and they understand it's not something that's going away, so they just got to deal with it.
Right. So you said you went vegan in college, and you went to York College, right?
Yep, York College, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and they actually started... Weren't you part of that whole transition for them to have vegan options in their cafeteria?
Yeah, it's funny. We actually, myself and Katie, we were the co-founders and founders of the York College Vegans. We started that group, and we started a petition in the cafeteria to just get more vegan vegetarian options, because at the time there were almost none. Mm-hmm. And because of the petition, how many names we got signed, the cafeteria heads were just kind of fed up with us and gave us a whole vegan section.
That's awesome.
So we accomplished way more than we set out for,
right,
with that club and with that petition. And what I hear, it's still going strong.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think it's still going pretty good. And I know there's some professors there that are vegan too, which is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out Dr. Clay Robinson.
Mm-hmm. And Jeff Stabley, music department. Yeah.
I love hearing success stories of things like that. Sometimes I sign a petition, I think, is this actually going to do anything? Right. And does.
Yeah, yeah. We spent like maybe a month just walking around the cafeteria looking for names, and I think we got 125 signatures
That's awesome.
of people who weren't even like vegan or vegetarian. They just wanted people to have more options, you know.
That's great.
And, we got a whole section. I think PETA gave them an A rating for vegan food or something.
Wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it was pretty serious.
Yeah, that's great.
And something else I had to chuckle at when you were talking was you mentioned the stereotypical weightlifter bodybuilder diet of chicken, broccoli, and brown rice. I used to play college football, so I was big into building muscle and things like that, and a lot of my friends were. And that's all people would eat would be these chicken cutlets and broccoli and the occasional thing of brown rice. And
Yeah.
now that I'm vegan, I still work out. I do a lot more cardio and I run, but I eat a lot of people always ask me where I get my protein, and I don't track any of those nutrients. I just eat until I'm full and eat generally healthy, and it all kind of works out.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of intuitive eating, and as long as you eat a wide variety of foods, then you end up being okay.
So are you still very much into athletics and sports and things like that?
Definitely. I don't run or bodybuild as much as I used to before, but right now I'm into rock climbing. I have been for the past about 2 years.
And for anyone looking into building muscle or thriving athletically on a vegan diet, what's some of the staples of your diet that you really count on to be there for you when you're looking to push yourself?
I always eat overnight oats at least 5 days a week, and I swear by it. It's got everything I need: almond milk, oatmeal, chia seeds, flax seeds, some frozen berries, and peanut butter. I feel like you can't go wrong starting your day with some overnight oats. Lunches are pretty basic with rice and beans or stir fry, and then of course on the weekends a good tofu scramble. Definitely the staples.
Nice.
I'm a big fan of oatmeal. I have a saying that no one's ever eaten a bowl of oatmeal for breakfast and regretted it later in the day.
No, never. I don't think ever happened.
One thing I do remember from speaking of food is your undying love for bananas.
Yeah, when I first went vegan, it was funny. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know I have like a whole bunch of guidance, so I would just eat tons of fruit all the time. I remember at one point I was eating 7 or 8 bananas a day, and during my internship at Wellspan York Hospital, I was so busy studying and in school all day that like I didn't really want to meal prep. So for breakfast, I would just bring like a bag of fruit. I'd have 2 apples, 2 oranges, and 2 bananas. And people thought I was insane eating just fruit for breakfast, but I would do that almost daily.
That's awesome.
That sounds great. I love fruit and apples, bananas. Oranges, not so much because they make kind of a mess and you gotta peel them and all that. Then your keyboard gets all sticky.
Yeah. But then you smell like oranges for the day.
This is true.
Which I'm all about that.
There's nothing worse than a bad orange. I mean,
yeah,
you can't get over that.
Well, pro tip for anyone out there who has trouble picking citrus fruit, what you do is you feel for it to be heavy for its size. So if you pick it up and it feels heavier than it should be, that means it's good because that's all the juices and stuff in it.
Okay, little density trick.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you where I learned that, but I did. So awesome. What were we talking? Well, yeah, we're talking about athletics and stuff, and we got sidetracked off to fruit. But you also mentioned that several times now that you work in the healthcare industry. Could you talk a little bit more about your roles in that profession?
Yeah, so my job title is clinical laboratory scientist. Some people call it medical technologist or lab tech. But I work in a hospital lab and I test blood and body fluids for different analytes. And I do that right now at Johns Hopkins in the core chemistry lab. I think we've been getting a lot more press because of COVID testing. And the medical technologists are the people who do all the COVID testing.
Oh, wow.
I personally don't, because I work in chemistry, and at the lab I work at, we don't do serology testing for patients. So all the PCR and RNA testing is done in microbiology.
If you're in the healthcare industry, I imagine there's a lot of health advice or a lot of health messaging going out there, and sometimes that messaging may not align with vegan ethics, whether that's advocating for testing on animals or promoting a certain type of diet that may have meat or dairy products in it.
Definitely.
So do you ever come yourself into a situation where you feel inclined to speak up or go against something that's being pushed forward by the powers that be at your work?
Yeah, I ran into that a lot actually when I did my internship at Wellspan York Hospital, just because South Central PA isn't super open to veganism, or like maybe not as educated on veganism. So when I was doing my internship, there was a heart healthy week at the hospital, but none of the heart healthy options were even vegetarian. Like they were all just just like leaner cuts of meat. And I was definitely like thrown off by that. And I sent an email to the president of the hospital, and he replied actually, and he humored me a little bit, but in the end, like nothing really changed. But I did send an email.
Hey, at least you tried.
You should have walked around the cafeteria with the clipboard getting signatures like in the college days.
Anyway.
I should have. It worked once, right?
So, do you work with any other vegans at all?
I work with a few vegetarians, but I'm the only vegan in my department.
Okay.
Yeah. There's 2 other vegetarians.
Nice.
Which is nice. I mean, whenever we have, we don't have any potlucks anymore, but whenever food is ordered, there's always a vegetarian or vegan option for us, which is nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Switching gears a little bit to the more advocacy side of things, you've clearly been involved with the Animal Advocates, and you were actually a board member when you were on this side of the Mason-Dixon line. Do you have any other experiences with animal advocacy, either before the Animal Advocates or even currently in your new home?
I haven't done any outward activism since I was with Animal Advocates, just because of time constraints, really. But I've been doing most of my activism is through like living my life and being a positive like vegan influence through Instagram, social media, just like with my friends. That's like the more activism focus I am right now, like more with individuals instead of like the grand scheme of things, you know.
And
it would be nice to do some activism again, though. Yeah, I do miss it.
Yeah.
Well, from our conversation on this podcast, that one of the best ways to make vegans is by simply having them hang out with awesome vegans. So by doing what you're doing, you are certainly being an advocate. So thank you.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, anytime. Anytime.
And something else I like to pick your brain a little bit about is vegans are very good on social media with other vegans, but not necessarily with non-vegans. Do you have any experience trying to breach that barrier and appeal to both demographics, or show non-vegans that being vegan is a healthy, thriving, sustainable way to live?
Yeah, it's definitely a hard balance. I mean, I remember in my early vegan days that I spent a lot of time arguing with people on Facebook, just as I'm sure people argue with people on Facebook now about COVID or politics or whatever. But I feel like the healthy balance is just like you said, to be an example. A lot of times when I post on social media, I won't even like put all the typical vegan hashtags that everyone puts, like the big paragraph of hashtags. I'll just put like #vegan, and I feel like for me the simpler the better. It's like as long as they know it's vegan, they don't need to like know everything about it.
Right.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
That makes
So
sense.
sometimes I'll like post a story where I make soup, and it won't be until the end that I'll put like a little plant emoji in vegan. So like the whole time you're watching this recipe, you don't even know that it's a vegan recipe until the very end.
Nice.
And like that doesn't let you already think bad about the recipe in the beginning.
There's somebody watching your story thinking, this is going to be so great. When's he going to add the meat? When's he going to add the meat? I keep waiting. And then it gets to the end and goes, oh, it got me.
They're like, oh my God, that looks so good. I'm like, wait a second. Yeah, it's definitely the way to go.
So you, after you were done with school and everything, didn't you move to Colorado?
Yeah, I lived in Baltimore for about a year and a half, and then I just got tired of Baltimore, just like being around the same stuff all the time, which happens to a lot of people, I assume. So I moved to Denver and lived there for about a year, and that's actually where I got the most into rock climbing.
Well, they got lots of rocks there.
They got some of the best rocks, let me tell you.
So it sounds like you've done a lot of traveling. Are there any big differences between these areas in terms of vegan options with cuisine, or even just the reception of the lifestyle in general?
Yeah, I'm lucky to always live in cities that have a lot of vegan options, like South Central PA, Baltimore, Denver. The main difference with Denver, and I guess most of the West Coast, is they're really big on food trucks. Like there were 4 or 5 vegan food trucks in Denver alone, and they would just go to different spots every day. So you would have to check their Instagram and see where your favorite food truck's going to be today. The food trucks had food that were better than the brick and mortar vegan restaurants, actually.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, shout out to Denver Vegan Van and Wong Wei Veg.
What was some of your favorite food options there?
Denver Vegan Van does a vegan Taco Bell
Mm.
menu probably once every 2 months, and it is absolutely incredible.
Nice.
They have everything from they used to have the Mexican pizzas and then the crunch wraps, quesadillas, cheesy gordita crunch, everything scratch made. It's really, really good and vegan.
We gotta go to Denver, John.
Yep, let's go right now.
Not many people know this about me, but I used to love Taco Bell, and my favorite menu item on there was the cheesy gordita crunch.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So
Yeah, there's nothing like the vegan van cheese and gordita crunch.
Yeah, so it's pretty progressive in Denver, though. I noticed that, like, I'm always hearing from people how progressive it is there. So, what was that like there? Is that true? Is that a myth?
No, I think it's pretty true. Denver was a lot more progressive than Baltimore is, even though Baltimore is progressive.
Right.
I think the main difference with Denver and the only like negative aspect of it was the lack of diversity, which you see a huge contrast to places like South Central PA or Baltimore
Right.
when you go out to Denver. Other than that, like I have nothing bad to say about Denver. It was a really awesome place.
Nice.
I don't hear a lot of people call South Central PA diverse a lot, so I guess Denver really was not that diverse.
Well, I guess because I spent most of my time at York College, which is pretty diverse, I would say. A lot of people come from New Jersey, Philadelphia, Baltimore,
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania.
And a criticism that you hear a lot of the vegan movement is the lack of diversity in it. And do you have any thoughts on how vegans can be more inclusive of different cultures, ethnicities, gender identities, and things like that?
That's a great question. I feel like a lot of the heavy hitter vegans in Baltimore have been trying to do that for a long time. I don't know if you all remember in, I think, 2019, the Baltimore Vegan Soul Fest.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, their main thing was about diversity and inclusion and, like, helping people of color get into veganism.
Soul Fest is actually one of my all-time favorite veg fests ever. Like, it's just
Same.
so much fun. The first year I went, I was just like blown away. And then we started doing
Yeah.
our own, and I was like, "Yeah, it's pretty cool," but but theirs is definitely better. It's just so awesome there, and I love the food, the music, and everything.
Yeah, the Vegan Soul Fest is next level.
Yeah.
I actually think it was in 2018. I think it got canceled in 2019
Mm-hmm.
and postponed, but then of course didn't happen in 2020 either. So I guess 2021 will be the year.
Hopefully.
Soul Fest comes back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. I see that same challenge in the in rock climbing. How it's not diverse at all, and it's hard to really pinpoint what would make it better. But
Well, I think to harken back all the way to 15 minutes ago when you were talking about your vegan journey with your family. So your mother
Mhm.
would adapt your culture's dishes and cuisine to your vegan diet? Is that correct?
Yep.
And
Yep, eventually. At first it took a little convincing, but eventually she did, yeah.
well, that's awesome. And one of the criticisms I have of some of the vegan messages we put out there is a lot of it focuses on very U.S.-centric kinds of foods. You see lots of stuff about Beyond Burgers, or you can make this pasta dish, or you can make this
Mhm.
Beyond Sausage. And these are all very American-centric, U.S.-based dishes. And then you just tell somebody, oh, you can just have rice and beans, or you can have this Impossible Burger. And that does not give credit to the complexity between other cultures' cuisines and their
Yeah.
dishes and that. And I think that if we were more inclusive of these different cuisines and cultures and food choices out there for these other populations and people, that it would be a much more appealing lifestyle. But instead, we keep falling back on, oh, do you see the new vegan chicken nugget? It looks great.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely understand where you're coming from. Definitely. I think just having more people in those ethnicities or in those groups that are vegan would be helpful. But then also, I've noticed that different cuisines or ethnic foods are more easily vegan than the American foods are. Like Ethiopian food or Mexican food or a lot of Asian food is naturally vegan, thankfully.
Mhm.
Whereas like the standard American diet is the opposite of naturally vegan.
Right. Everything's meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we're making a big deal over all these things where other cultures are looking at us thinking, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Yeah. Potentially. I'm not sure. Potentially. I still think it's important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think to your point that just making sure we're inclusive and being able to look out for these other cultures and welcome them in and not try and shoehorn anyone into a specific ethic, whether it is an American vegan ethic or other cultures' vegan ethic.
Yep, I agree.
So when you were first transitioning from vegetarianism to veganism, what was the biggest challenge for you?
Probably just finding the substitutes. I think most people that transition from vegetarian to vegan are so used to eating like diets that are heavier in eggs and dairy than someone who was an omnivore. So I used to have like egg whites for breakfast every single morning, and I just had to find out something to replace that with.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, back then I wasn't super knowledgeable, so I was like, what can I replace it that has a whole bunch of protein? And I went to oatmeal, I went to tofu scramble, I went to like mock meats. That was probably the most challenging, is just replacing those foods.
Yeah, but,
Afterwards, it was easy though.
yeah, to your earlier points, that once you find what works for you and you make it a habit, it's just part of your life now.
Yeah. The vegan lifestyle is really just like any other lifestyle. It's like once you do it, like you said.
And I actually did a little bit of research before this, so give me some credit, John. I read I think an interview you did with one of the magazines you've done some modeling for. By the way, listeners, Leon's also a model sometimes, right?
Yeah. I modeled for Hill Killer, a great Baltimore-based bicycle apparel company.
And I believe in that interview you mentioned that you don't really take any supplements or powders or things like that.
Nope. Yeah, no protein powders, no supplements. I take a multivitamin. It's supposed to be daily. Ends up being like every other week, but it's on my shelf. But yeah, no special protein powders, no fish oils, vegan fish oils or nothing like that.
I'm the same, but I take I think a B12 vitamin, and that's really it. Other than that, I don't really worry about it at all.
No, yeah, I'm no nutritionist, but I feel like if you eat a wide variety of foods, I think you'll be all good.
And this goes to show you, listeners, you don't need to do any crazy stuff to make sure you thrive on a vegan diet. You can still kick butt while eating lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of plants.
Yes. 100% plants. So, yeah.
So do you have any companion animals in your home?
Yeah, I still have my cat Bean. She's actually
Nice.
here with me now. You may have been able to hear her just like scratching before. She's about 4.5 now. She's still kicking it, still doing well. She got a little chunky though. She got up to like 18 pounds.
Oh,
'cause I
wow.
was feeding her too much. Yeah.
Last time I
But
saw, she
then-
was like a little tiny thing.
Like a
Exactly. That's
bean?
what everyone says. So she got a little chunk on her, but
Nice.
I switched her food over, and then she's back down to okay weight. She's doing great.
Awesome.
And then my partner Summer moved in with me, and she brought her dog Gatsby, which is a mini golden doodle.
Cute.
So 2 companion animals in the house: 1 cat, 1 dog.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
I swear this ties into what we've been talking about, but does your veganism bleed over into other aspects of your life besides your food choices, such as maybe feeding your dog vegan dog food, what you wear, or the toiletries and things like that you buy?
Definitely. 100% with the toiletries, the products I buy. I try like clothes I buy, always vegan, always trying to be sustainable, fair trade. I feel like for me, veganism is like a label, but then like throughout my everyday life, I try and live more as an ethical consumer.
Mm-hmm.
So like with veganism as the background, I kind of like build off of that in every aspect of my life to consume as ethically as possible.
I loved how you said fair trade, because I think that's a big, huge thing that a lot of vegans miss, where you can buy something that's made of polyester instead of wool, but you're still buying it from a sweatshop with child labor. So is it
Right.
really an ethical choice?
Right.
Yeah. And I feel like it's hard to be 100% with that stuff. Like it's easy to be 100% with the food you eat, or like, but it's hard to be like every piece of clothing you wear is going to be fair trade and ethically sourced,
Mhm.
But as long as you try your best, I think that matters the most.
And
Then for your second question, the dog does eat. Gatsby does eat vegan dog food.
Nice.
And then Bean, she has some vegan treats here and there, but cats are a lot harder to be 100% vegan. So
Right.
she has her prescription cat food for urine crystals and stuff.
I feel like such a bad cat owner. I just literally feed my cat different food every single week.
Bean's got some health issues. She used to have food sensitivity where she would get like breakouts but we got that taken care of with a special diet, and now she switched over to a urine crystal diet because she started getting urine crystals, and now she's on a low calorie urine crystal diet. So food's not cheap, let me tell you.
I could imagine even like down in that area. I know prices are a little bit higher on food and stuff like that, so I can't even imagine what it's like for animal food.
It's much more expensive than Netflix.
Yeah, my cat's fat too because he lost weight for a while there, but he gets really annoying when he's on a diet. And I made the strategic decision for both their sanities to let him be fat and happy rather than skinny and sad.
Yeah, it's like you don't realize how much little food a cat needs because they just want food all the time. But
they got nothing else going on.
Right.
That's true. They don't. The vet told me I shouldn't feed her more than 200 calories a day, but like I was feeding her 3 scoops a day, and 1 scoop was 200 calories. So it was like, oh my gosh.
Oh man.
So I had to get the low calorie food where like the volume has less calories, so she doesn't go crazy.
That's basically a banana and a half. How is she doing that? Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how she's doing it. She zooms around the house like she's running on way more than 200 calories.
Well, we're coming up here on half an hour now. I don't want to take up too much of your evening, but is there anything you would like to tell the listeners about veganism, your life, or just anything you feel like people should really know?
I think veganism is awesome. Everyone should go vegan. And I feel like if you can't go vegan, I think the bare minimum you should do is educate yourself and be an ethical consumer. And when you have the option and the means to choose vegan in your life, you should. Because I think it's the best thing for the animals on our planet.
That is
all I have to say.
That was one of the best responses to that question I've ever heard. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Sweet. Well, thanks for having me a lot. I really appreciate it. This was a great time catching up with you all.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. It's been great to hear about your story. And if any listeners out there have anything they'd like to tell us about veganism or questions, comments, concerns, or just to let us know that someone's actually listening, send us an email at bekindpodcast@gmail.com.
It's good talking to you.
Yeah, good talking to you all too.
All right.
I'll catch you all later.
Bye.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Meow, meow, meow. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow.